Now that you've created your drum loops from your Patterns Beatmaker assignment, you're now going to move to form assignment number 1. You'll find this assignment in Google Classroom, and you should have clicked on the link that will bring you to this page. The first thing I would encourage you to do is to come up here to the title and change the name. So you'll start by putting in your class period, let's say for example 7A, and then your last name, your first initial, and then form number 1. And if you want to put a comma or a dash in there, you can. Just so I know what class period you're in and that this is going to be form assignment number 1. And then you hit your return key. So once you have this renamed, you're ready to start. So again, you're going to be using the form for a typical song, which is verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus. So to do this, I'm going to start by going to my loop library, and then I'm going to click on this X. Once you click the X, you should see a new button in your loop library that says My Loops. If you click on My Loops, you're going to see the loops that you've created and saved from your Patterns Beatmaker assignment. So to start out, I'm going to use drum loop number 1, and I'm going to double click on this loop, which is going to add it into my Soundtrap workspace. Now, if you look at this, you can see you have a 4-measure phrase, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Soundtrap is automatically going to paste that into an 8-measure phrase. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. To do this assignment, I actually want this to be a total of 16 measures. So I'm going to grab the end of my cycle bar here and drag it over to the number 17. Next, I'm going to come back to this region, put my cursor in the upper right-hand corner, click and drag to extend this out. So now I have my drum loop, my 4-measure drum loop phrase 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to represent verse 1, 4-measure phrases. Next, I want to move on to the chorus. So for this, I can click on my cycle bar and drag it over here to 17 so I can see what I'm trying to fill in. Now for here, if I just double click on loop 2, Soundtrap is going to create a new track to drop that into. But I think I would rather put all my drum tracks on the same track. So instead of double clicking, I'm actually going to click on the loop here, drag it into this track, and drop it. And then Soundtrap's going to automatically populate that to 16 measures. So again, 4-measure phrases. Now, for the next step, I'm going to come down here to my zoom button, and I'm going to zoom out so I can see everything that I have so far. So I have my verse 1, chorus. After this, I want to have verse 2 and the chorus again. I can copy and paste both of these sections at the same time. All I need to do is start with my cursor down here in an empty place, click and drag across both of these regions. Now that I have both of them highlighted, I hold down my Option key next to the keyboard, click, drag, and then drop. As you click, drag, and drop, you want to be very careful to make sure that you don't overlap your regions. So if I hold my Option key and I click, drag, and then I drop, and I've overlapped, it's actually going to delete what's underneath it. So if I try to move this region now, you can see there's going to be nothing below it. If that happens, you can use your undo button to undo your copy and paste, and then simply do it again. Highlight both regions, hold your Option key, click, drag, drop. So now you have 16 measures verse 1, 16 measures chorus, 16 measures verse 2, 16 measures chorus. So the next part of the song is going to be the break. For the break, I only need that to be 2 4-measure phrases. So I'm going to change my cycle bar, and it looks smaller because I've zoomed out. If I want to zoom in, first let me move my playhead over here, and I can see that this is going to be 8 measures. So from here, I'm going to go to drum loop 3, click and drag, then drop, and again, Soundtrap is going to populate under that complete cycle bar. So once again, I'm going to zoom out, and following the break, I want to copy my chorus 2 times. So I'm going to hold my Option key, click, drag, drop, and then once again, I hold the Option key, click, drag, drop. So if you've done all this correctly, you ought to be out to 104 measures. So it's going to end at measure 105. I'm going to go ahead and turn my cycle bar off. Now if I put my playhead over here, I'm going to zoom in just to show you a neat feature. So at the end of the song, if I don't want the song to just stop, I can add what's called a fade out. So to do that, I put my cursor here in the region, and when the edit button appears, click on edit, and then you'll see this option fade out. Click fade out, and you'll see up here that the volume will gradually fade out. If I want to make the fade out longer, there's a little circle up here I can click on and drag it over if I want to make the fade out longer or shorter. So as I put it here, you can hear that the music will fade out as it reaches this diagonal line. And with that, you've completed the assignment. But once you have this completed, you can go back and start building your song. So if I move my cycle bar back to the beginning, I can start doing things like maybe adding a bass track. So if I come over to my loop library and click the X and say I'm going to look for bass, if I hit my space bar, it'll play my drum loop. And while that's playing, I can come over and click on the different bass loops until I find one that I like. There are a lot of bass loops in here. So once you find one you like, you can just double click and it'll add that to your song. Now, for my chorus, just like my drum track changes, I'd like to add a different bass track. So again, I can go listen to all the ones I want to listen to, but then when I find one that I like, I'm going to click and drag, drop it here. If you add something and decide you don't like it, you can always just click on it and then press the delete key on your keyboard. So once you find a bass track that you like, again, you can click, drag, and drop. Now you may notice with that track, it wouldn't allow me to drop it into this one. And the reason why is because this track is an audio track, while this track is a MIDI track. You can see over here that you have these vertical lines, whereas on this one, you have these dots and dashes. And you can't put MIDI tracks on the same as, or MIDI regions on the same track that you have audio regions. I can adjust the volume. Now from here, again, it's copy and paste. So I can click and drag over both those regions, hold my Option key, click, drag, drop, and then for my final chorus, I just want to take this one and I can click, drag, and drop on it. But then I also want to add a fade out on the bass track so it matches the fade out on the drums. So now I just need to add one more bass track to my break. So again, for here, so for this one, because it's an audio track, I can drop it up here. So now I have So as I move from the verse into the chorus, I have a bass that changes with my drums. And then let me bounce over here. So for the break, my bass is changing there again too. So depending on the time that you have in class, you can continue doing this. Once you get some bass tracks added, you can go back and then maybe add a guitar track, or you could try a piano or synth track, and you just keep building your song. And when you're done, just make sure that you click the save button, and that's all that you have to do. I can't wait to hear the songs that you come up with, and I hope you have fun doing it.